Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Ngani Titan. And as you can see, I've got the T95 unlocked. I just haven't done the first look at the T95 because I don't want to do too many of them in any given week. And I bought actually a whole bunch of tanks more or less simultaneously, so I have already done the M53, M55, the Tier 9 American artillery. I have the FV3805, I think is the right one, the Tier 9 British artillery, and I have the T95, and I'm actually a fair bit of the way into the T95 in terms of experience. With the current operations, both before Winter Games Charlie and during Winter Games Charlie, I've been making use of any experience multipliers that I get my hands on. These are grinds that I don't particularly want to drag out any longer than I have to. The shorter I do them, the better. The happier I will be. But although I am getting to enjoy the T95 a bit more than I was now that I have the Top Gun unlocked, and well, the artillery is artillery, but I still don't want to be, still over 200,000 experience, and I don't for each of them. So I don't want to drag it out any longer than I have to. However, so after 5 years, I'm finally reaching the end of a couple of tech trees in different nations. Why did it take so long? Well, it's mostly my fault, I must admit. I went wide rather than tall, and you're better off in this game actually going tall. You're better off focusing on one nation, or one or two nations at the start of your career, and actually completing them. You'll become a better tanker, particularly if you focus on tank types as you work up, in my opinion. But I didn't. I basically started with the British heavies, hit the Churchill 1, ran out of cash, then couldn't afford to buy Churchill 7, but wasn't impatient and was completely addicted to the game at the time, playing it quite a lot. So I would go back and start again at Tier 2, and then I spread out through the whole British line, the Americans, the French, the Germans, the Russians, Japanese and Chinese, and eventually I was getting nowhere. So after nearly a year of this, I decided, right, let's try and improve my game. And at that point I started focusing more on particular nations. I actually sold my French, Japanese and Chinese tanks in order to give me the garage space to actually have a proper go at the Russians. And I focused on particular tank types, so I did the Russian heavies, the British heavies, the American heavies, that kind of thing, one after the other. And then I switched over to tank destroyers and so on and so forth. I did a bit of back and forth. It wasn't all disciplined, and afterwards I still did a lot of bouncing around a bit. But now I'm near making a decision, and the decision is, what do I do next? Which I hadn't given a lot of thought to up till now. I was sort of thinking maybe I'll go back and play the Russians, or maybe I'll play the Germans, but I hadn't really thought about it. But now I'm thinking, why not do the minor nations? Collectively, the minor nations, even with the Italians coming, the minor nations probably don't amount to as many tank lines as I've still got open in either the German or the Russian tech trees, not to mention what I would have to do if I did the French or the Chinese. The Chinese don't have a huge amount, but they have a decent amount of tanks. Or the Japanese. So there's a lot to be said for doing the minor nations, and the Italians are on the way, so I could add them into the mix. I'd probably do no more than 3 tank lines at a time, but still 6 tank lines or 8 tank lines, whatever, wouldn't be a huge amount. And I kind of liked the Ariete Progetto M35 Mod 46. I've seen videos of it in the PC when it came out first, and I thought it looked like an interesting tank. I wasn't expecting it on the Xbox or the console anytime soon, but it definitely looks like a tank that I would enjoy, and it's something I'm seriously considering getting. So if people actually have a view about what nation, or a combination of nations, major nations, minor nations, that I should take a look at next, I'd be certainly interested in hearing about it. I may or may not take your advice, but I'd be certainly hearing people's opinions. So that's one big decision that I'm going to have to make. I won't be making it straight away. Obviously, there's a good few games yet to be played, but it's something that will be coming up in the next month or two. So that is 4.9. That's one of the things that 4.9 has prompted in my head. The other is that Commander Mode is returning with keyboard and mouse support. Well, I don't really care about Commander Mode, but I do agree kind of that it's a game that would benefit from. I have tried it, at least earlier versions of it. it's a game that would benefit with keyboard and mouse support. But if it is a game that benefits or plays best with keyboard and mouse support, what's it doing on the console? Why not play it as a tablet or PC game? Now I do know Microsoft are kind of pushing cross-platform in games anyway, and buying games through the store rather than that can be bought through console or PC and more or less played in the same way, shared across platforms. The replay highlights only. There's a couple of things that I take from this. One of them is that they're still tweaking and working on the replay system. I think the replay system is a very good development, and I really would like to see them working on it more. I would love to be able to see them being able to people being able to share, not merely share or highlight as in social media share, highlight or play replays, but to actually take a copy of the replay files and put them up on separate servers, not necessarily ones run by Wargaming, so that they could searchable servers, so that you could advertise it as a kind of a thing, like I'll put my server here, would YouTubers be interested, sort of thing. Now obviously there's going to be huge issues in with version maintenance and compatibility across versions, but I mean they don't bother with it in the PC, and maybe they shouldn't bother with it on the Xbox. If it's past a certain time, it's past a certain time, and that's it. You won't be able to replay it on your current version. On the console now, in the PC, you can keep copies of the installation. They all run in folders, so you can just run on relative paths. So you could just copy your current installation folders, put them into a kind of an archive by version, and keep every version you have, and then go back and put the replays into the appropriate version, and it will run the appropriate game engine. But you won't be able to do that obviously with the console. Consoles are far too locked down to do a thing like that. However, I had a quick look at the highlight system, and it's interesting. It's basically it's tanks destroyed, but it also says suicide, base capture start, and base capture finish. Each moment's marked on the timeline with a specific marker. So it seems like I presume it will also include ramming then. So that if you ram tanks or destroy tanks by drowning and stuff like that, they'd actually show up in the highlight reel, and that could be actually quite a bit of fun and very useful for anybody, because you could then produce kind of fun clips, just showing highlights of games where sort of a lot of this thing happened, or a bunch of games where you just record the highlight version of the games where a bunch of this kind of stuff happened, and then you could take out the best bits, you were saying, make kind of a clip reel of funny accidents, because most suicides are by accident. People drive the tank off a cliff, or they drive it into the water and drowned, or they drive it into a location where they can't get out of, or something like that. Or you have weird stuff like I've had in the past, where I've had tank trapped, and it's the self-righting mechanism causes it to self-right on top of my tank and destroy me. With the return of a couple of maps, Berlin Winter, I never minded Berlin, but I didn't particularly miss it either. It's another urban map. It's big enough that people don't cover all the approaches, so it tends to play a little bit like a bigger version of Insk in many ways. People concentrate on one or two corridors, and the next thing, other people slip in through other corridors, and you get flanking fire and all sorts of weird stuff going on. Icebound, I would personally hate that map. Hated it at the beginning. See no particular reason why I'm going to not hate it again. As soon as I get my first game on it, I just didn't like that map. And if it never came back or I never saw it again, I'd be happy out. Artillery is now restricted to a maximum of 3 per team. Personally, this is not going to impact me, I think, in a huge way, because I very rarely saw more than 3 artillery in a team. But I do think it's probably a good thing. I've personally been of the view that teams that had 3 to 4 artillery on the teams actually suffered from having 3 to 4 artillery on the teams, mostly because they didn't have enough proper tanks. And the artillery actually gameplay was worse as well. Even if you're interested in, or into artillery gameplay, it was harder to play Wells artillery in a game where there was a lot of artillery, that much artillery at any rate, simply because the front wasn't covered, it couldn't stabilise. Artillery plays best, or you have the best artillery games in a game where your team can stabilise the front, where the enemy are pinned down and not able to move. Then you can move your artillery into locations to shoot those pinned down enemies and take them out. But if they're sitting still, they're much easier to hit with artillery than if you're trying to hit people that are actually moving around. Fluid battlefields are almost impossible for artillery to do well in, because A, the guys are moving, they're moving full speed, and because they're killing the spotters as soon as they're being spotted, quite a lot of times the enemy team is advancing unspotted towards you, the artillery, as well, as much as anything else. So a lot of times in games with high amounts of artillery, the artillery is trying to either hit fast-moving tanks, or it's scurrying off with his tail between his legs trying to find places that are safe to try and shoot at fast-moving tanks, while it's running away from medium tanks and light tanks that are broken through the enemy lines and are hunting in the artillery locations. The FE4202, well, you know, I'm delighted. I enjoyed it when it was first. I see no particular reason why I wouldn't enjoy it again. I'm not going to be playing tier 10s in the immediate future, so it's not going to be an immediate issue for me. The changes to the radial wheel, well, yes, I got caught badly on Fjords with that one. It now looks like that the value you select first is the value that's going to be recorded and released into the broadcast. So I had a habit of, say, rotating the selector and then switching through the different communication menus to pick the one that I wanted. So if I wanted something like I'm falling back, I might rotate, select affirmative, and then cycle through good game and to falling back. I think they're all in the same location. And I'd get the last one on. But now it's the first one you select as far as the system is concerned. That's the one it shows, and it took me a while to get used to it. I haven't really been using the radial wheel. The T95, you're fine or you're dead. I don't generally have a problem with modules except for tracks, and I don't generally use repair kits on the tracks because I've got pretty fast repair on the tracks and the armor is pretty good. And with artillery, you're hit or you're dead. You might occasionally get the opportunity to use it to repair tracks. But so far it hasn't happened, so I haven't really used it on the repair side, so I don't know if it's improved the repair experience. The ping meter, I'd be actually interested in seeing that one over time, because I've had a lot of experiences over the years of perfectly full 5-bar green ping meter, and the game is just out of control and going all over the place. And then there's a whole bunch of balance improvements and flags and camouflages and whatnot, and that looks, it's probably could be useful. You'll know when you play through it. You'll know if it makes a difference. Some cases it will, in some cases it won't. So that's pretty much for where I'm at currently in my own game and for update 4.9. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like and a share. Feel free to comment. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. I will catch you all again soon. Bye for now.